Welcome to another video in our series to highlight the Iowa Lakes Corridor Development Corporation and talk a lot about the businesses in our region and the partners that make everything a strong economic development ecosystem. So today we're here with Eric from the Merrill company. Talk to us a little bit about the company and yourself as the leader.
Okay. Well, we are probably better known to the general public as Arnold Motor Supply. Arnold Motor Supply started in Spencer in 1927, so we celebrated our 95th birthday this year. The Merrill company essentially is the distribution center for Arnold Motor Supply. Two separate legal entities, but we function as one company. Okay. So we obviously have been here for a long time, 95 years in the community. We are spread out fairly regionally. We are from the middle of Nebraska, so Kearney, Nebraska is our westernmost location. We have 70 locations total, stretching from Kearney over into the Quad Cities in Illinois. We get up into Minnesota a little bit and a little bit of northwest Missouri, but most of our facilities are in Iowa and Nebraska.
Okay. And how big is your team here?
We have about 760 associates total, and about 100, in rough numbers, 120 of those are headquartered or domiciled in the corridor itself.
Perfect. So you guys had an expansion about 2016?
Yes.
Here in Spencer. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so as a part of growth, and we have been steadily growing. As you grow locations, obviously you need to grow office personnel, you need to grow distribution capability, and so we really needed to do both. And so in 2016 we added about 9,500 square feet of office space onto the south end of our building and about 36,000 square foot of distribution center space on the northwest sort of or corner of our building. Okay. So that we did those at the same time, which really worked out well to just get all of the construction done and all at once, and really opened up a lot of capability that we were desperately needing, both from a space for people and a space for products as our product offering continues to grow.
Yep. So you're in an industry that is very much changing and somewhat rapidly when we're looking at electric vehicles and technology and all of those types of things. So talk to me a little bit about legislative advocacy. And last time you and I met, we talked about the DOT and just some of those things that are going to be very impactful to how you do business. So let's talk a little bit about the legislative piece of that.
That's a very important thing for us. Within our industry, there are a couple of different things that are happening. I'd say electric vehicles is one big piece. Automated driver assist systems, which would be, a lot of us are becoming more familiar with lane departure warnings, adaptive cruise control, all of the sensors and cameras that 10 years ago, 20 years ago didn't exist. Right. So a lot of that is coming, and because of that, there's a lot of legislative questions to be answered. And so we have been very active in telematics, which is the all of the data that your car is collecting, what happens to that data, who owns it, who has rights to access it. That's been a big thing for us. The connected vehicle, you and I have talked about the Council on Automated Transportation. That is another big thing. And again, it's all intertwined with all of these sensors and how your car becomes part of the Internet of Things and all of the communications that happen behind the scenes. So we've been very involved in that from understanding the issues and bringing our perspective to our legislators at the state and federal level.
Right. And one of the things that we feel Iowa does a very good job at is actively being able to participate in that process and really having access to department heads and elected officials and those types of things. So have you been able to connect with those elected officials pretty easily?
Yes. Yeah, it's been very effective, I think. At this point, we're still at the beginnings of a lot of these issues. So we haven't had lengthy, deep conversations, but we have had the introductions. We've had the We've been able to raise our hand and say, hey, we have some input here.
Yeah.
And people have been very receptive. And a lot of that does flow through events that you have here at the corridor. So that's been something that we've appreciated.
Perfect. So tell me, certainly with the footprint that you have and the changes and the growth of your company, what makes it a great place to call home here in the Iowa Lakes corridor and in the Spencer community?
Well, first and foremost, I think you have to start with the people. We, being a Midwest regional chain, we're dealing with a lot of communities that are very similar. But there is certainly a common work ethic and a commonality amongst most of the people who live in our communities that really lends itself to a good workforce. So I think we have to start there, that the people here are good people to draw from. Like everyone else, we'd like to find more, but we've been pretty successful, honestly, in being able to recruit and retain talent. Another thing that I think we've done a good job locally, and I lump Iowa and Nebraska into this as well, is just the legislative and the governmental environment. Especially, I think a lot of attention was drawn to local and state government over the past couple of years with COVID and all the things that happened that maybe we didn't pay enough attention to before that. And I think our local elected officials have done a good job of stepping in when they needed to step in, keeping hands off where it made sense to keep hands off, and it's been, we have a wide enough geographic area that we saw some other places where it was a little probably too intrusive from the governmental perspective, and I think in this region they've done a good job of finding that balance between providing guidance, providing assistance without becoming a deterrent to business. So it's been a good atmosphere from that perspective as well to be in this part of the nation. Great.
So let's talk about looking forward. Talk about your vision for your company and for growth and the corridor as a whole in the next 5 to 10 years.
So we are definitely on a intentional growth project. We are growing slowly. We don't want to double in size or anything like that. We want to take nice incremental bites, if you will, and just continue to grow at a pace that's easily sustainable, that doesn't stretch us too much from a debt perspective, and that we can bring in people, because every time you grow you need to hire people, and so we somewhat are constrained by have to be able to find people to continue to grow. But most of our growth comes through acquisition. So we usually are looking for businesses out there that are looking for an exit plan that match with us from a synergy perspective and from a geographic footprint perspective. And that in some ways helps a lot because it brings in people who already have a local connection. That's very important to us, is the local connection to the community and to be the kind of the hometown team, if you will, since we're typically competing against large national chains. So we want to continue to grow as we have over the past 75 years, a little bit at a time, and staying where we can distribute. We're limited by where we can get trucks overnight and all those kind of things. So we definitely see continued growth, both here and across our entire footprint.
Okay, perfect. So if you were able to describe the corridor and really what it means to you as a company with just one word, what would that be?
I thought about that question a little bit, and I came up with a couple different answers, but ultimately the one that I settled on was resource. We would view the corridor as a valuable resource for us for help with different situations, different questions. And so I think that was the ultimately the one word that I think sums it up best for us is a good resource for us.
Perfect. Well, thank you so much for joining us and sharing the story of Merrill Company and Arnold Motor Supply, and just your thoughts on what's all happening. We know with the legislative pieces that we work with you a little differently than some of the other companies, so we really appreciate that partnership and always look to bring value.
Yeah, we appreciate it as well. Thanks for having me.